Today we have in the house DirectSellingLive politics blogger, liberal progressive blogger, Gene Braunstein. So sit back and relax as we bring to you DirectSellingLive blogger, Gene Braunstein.
When my mother used to sell Princess House.
Joined them way that night.
Norma siempre vendía cosas de Avon.
Oh, it must have been around 1935.
But those knives were amazing.
The one lady's name was Mary Kay, and I said, oh, cosmetics will never sell on Party Plan.
Was a single mom and created these hair care products for black women and became the first self-made millionaire in the United States. I just think that's extraordinary.
Okay, everyone, welcome back to On Air. Today we have an absolute special treat. For those of you who don't know, Direct Selling Live will be launching the very first political engagement project in Direct Selling's history when we launch Direct Selling Live Politics on January 9th at 6 o'clock. That's when it will kick off, 6 o'clock p.m. on Direct Selling Live. For those of you who also don't know, we have 4 of our initial bloggers. We have Lisa Wilbur of Avon, one of the top distributors, who will be blogging for the Libertarians. We have Kelly Foote, who will be blogging for the Tea Party. Ruth Webster, a distributor with Soul Purpose Lifestyle Company, will be the Independent. And on the show today, we have our liberal progressive, Gene Braunstein. What else do you want me to say about you, Gene?
What more can you say about me, Nick, that hasn't already been said?
If that doesn't sound like a liberal right there, what more
That's
can
right.
you say? There's nothing conservative about you.
Believe me. That's true.
Gene, it's an absolute honor to have you here with us on air today. As I said, this whole project of Direct Selling Live Politics, it's nothing like this has ever been done in direct selling. I've had the opportunity to speak with Joe Mariano, the president of the DSA, a couple of weeks ago when I broke the story about the DSA having their political action committee that no one knows about, so the distributors. And as we talked, he had indicated that he would love for distributors to get more involved in politics, so it would help them or give some wind to their back or to the wind to their sails as they try to get more involved in the public policy debate. So when he found out that Direct Selling Live was doing the Direct Selling Live Politics, he was actually, pretty excited about it. He thought it was a great idea and would love for distributors to know more about politics as it impacts direct selling. And one of the things that you and I will talk about later are those people in direct selling, the power players that are actually dominating the political space. But from a liberal progressive point of view, kind of tell us what are some of the things that you're going to focus on over the next 11 months.
Well, I think what I really am going to be focusing on is trying to remind people that the hole that we are in, and I write this in my blog, the hole that we are in, this country is not totally Obama's fault as the right would like us to believe. There's it's short-term memory loss and long-term memory loss in a lot of cases. A lot of what we're experiencing now is the result of 8 years of Bush-Cheney. Mm-hmm. Very simple. They got us into this hole and left town. And they dumped it all on Obama. Now he's got to come in and clean it up, and everybody's expecting him to do it in 3 years. Ain't going to happen in 3 years. Nobody can clean up this mess in 3 years.
Right.
That's one of the things. And also to talk about some of his accomplishments, some of the things he has gotten through in spite of the obstructionist side of the aisle there that has been against everything he's proposed, even before he proposes it. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I just want to let people know that the guy has done some good stuff in the meantime. He doesn't brag about it enough. He's got to get that out there to people, and I'm going to help.
Well, let me ask you this. Last year, Direct Selling Live, we really started to move forward with the whole political engagement. And one of the things that we did, we polled all of the members of Direct Selling Live and wanted to get a sense of what your background is politically. And it turns out that 65% of the people who identified themselves associated with a political party, 65% of those said that they were liberal. Only 30% said that they were Republicans, and another 5% said that they were other, keeping in mind that the Republicans also included the Tea Party, which really started to rise over the past couple of years. So from a direct selling standpoint, why do you think it's important that we have this discussion about politics?
I think it's important because, people have to be involved in politics. We just can't sit on the sidelines anymore. Everybody's got to be involved in this. There's a lot at stake. Our country is at stake. Our lives, our children's and future generations all of that is at stake right now. And we need the right people in Washington to make sure that this ship stays on the right path so that America stays strong. And we have a future for our kids and future generations beyond that. It's very important that people get involved.
Why does that, or even better, how does that impact the direct selling distributor? Because you're talking about the future, you're talking about riding the ship, but here we're talking about distributors that are in direct selling, and for the most part, they're in the business to make money. Why is the politics part so important to their business?
Because it affects them directly.
In what way?
Well, for one thing, the middle class has been trampled upon over the last several years, and most of the people in direct selling are in direct selling to supplement their incomes because they're not making enough at work. There might be two-income families. People are holding down multiple jobs, and they're looking to direct selling to supplement their income or even have that be their sole income, which would be a great thing to do because it's all about entrepreneurship when you're in direct selling. And it's very important that they get involved so they get the tax breaks, they get the advantages, they have the voice, that their voices are heard in Washington when it comes to policy making, and not just the the top 1% that you hear a lot about. The middle class has to stand up and shout and be heard, and DirectSellingLive is a big, big part of that. It affects their businesses, and it affects their lifestyles directly. And we haven't really had that before, where this many people have been affected that directly. And it's very important they get involved.
It's interesting that you say DirectSellingLive. I really started taking some interest in this in 2008, not so much because of the historical nature of that presidential election, but more because of what I saw coming out of Network Marketing Business Journal with Keith Lagos. Keith Lagos is a very dear friend of mine. He's just an absolutely great guy. But one of the things that he started to do with his paper during the 2008 presidential season was to politicize his points of view and in some ways compromise the Network Marketing Business Journal by constantly talking about what was bad about Obama, and in some ways even pushing up against the race issue and a number of other things. And I found it very, very interesting. And being black and certainly looking at Obama as a multicultural individual, I started to take some offense to it, and I engaged him about it. And so I just decided, you know what, we need to have a much broader voice politically in direct selling. We just can't have one person driving the conversation. That one person would be Keith Lagos and Network Marketing Business Journal. So creating a platform for people like you, a progressive liberal, a libertarian, a Tea Party, a Republican, an independent, and by the way, we're looking for an Occupy blogger. We're looking for a traditional Democrat, a traditional Republican, and now we even want a youth blogger. But I just saw where the political conversation with direct selling was coming out of one place, out of Chicago, and that was with Keith Lagos. And I know you and I talked about it back in 2008, and we both thought it was just there needed to be a greater platform so more conversation could take place.
Right.
When we come back, I'm going to want to talk about some of the power players in direct selling that are heavily invested in direct selling. And off the top, we're going to pick up with the DeVos family, and we're going to pick up with Donald Trump, whose network marketing company, Trump Network, positions him squarely in the middle of this conversation. We'll be right back.
When my mother used to sell Princess House.
Joined them way that night.
Norma siempre vendía cosas de Avon.
Oh, it must have been around 1935.
But those knives were amazing.
The one lady's name was Mary Kay, and I said, oh, cosmetics will never sell on Party Plan.
Was a single mom and created these hair care products for black women and became the first self-made millionaire in the United States. I just think that's extraordinary.
Welcome back to On Air with our special guest, political blogger for Direct Selling Live, one of the four, Gene Braunstein out of Connecticut, the liberal progressive blogger. Gene, welcome and thank you very much for coming on air today.
I'm thrilled to be here, Keeper. Really am thrilled to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You know, one of the things that we talked about, and I want to make sure that people, you know, understand what your involvement is in doing writing and blogging. You had mentioned off the air that you had contacted the Obama administration about this Direct Selling Live project.
Yeah, actually I did. On a couple of occasions, I've written to the president, you know, a couple of suggestions because that's what I like to do. I like to be involved in this process, so I write it. Whether he reads it or not, or someone of his, you know, minion reads it, I don't care. I feel like I'm doing something at least, you know.
Yeah.
And in both instances recently that I've written to the president, I have mentioned this whole project. I gave him the address, www.DirectSellingLive.com, and I mentioned what we're doing and my part in it, of course. And I said, you know, you guys got to check it out. It's something great, and I think you would enjoy it. So hopefully they will check it out.
Well, that's very, very cool. Nothing like being on the radar.
Hey, you know, man, got to market.
For sure. Speaking of the Obama administration, this is a great segue. As we look around the political landscape here in direct selling, most people, particularly distributors, are not aware that direct selling has a strong presence politically.
Mm-hmm.
As I said in our very first segment, we broke the story here on air about the DSA's Political Action Committee they don't want distributors to know about. They've had this Political Action Committee for years, and distributors have not known about it. You had to be at the corporate level. Not only that, come to find out, speaking of segues, that the DeVos family has been one of the top two soft money donors to the Republican Party for years. Yes. So here in direct selling, you've got the top one or two companies heavily vested in the political future of the United States and by extension, the world. Not only that, the recent involvement with Donald Trump adds another power player politically from direct selling into the equation, because Donald Trump launched his Trump Network going on approximately 2 years, and there's no denying that that puts direct selling squarely into the conversation. So what are your thoughts about direct selling owners being involved politically?
Well, this kind of goes back to the question you asked me earlier in the first segment about, you know, how this affects distributors. If distributors, I'm sure most distributors are not aware of their company's involvement politically, because the companies never advertise that they're giving money to a particular party, whether they do or not, or what party it is, doesn't really matter. But most people aren't aware that they're doing that. They always think it's another industry that's doing it. Right. Direct Selling Live is heavily invested, not the Direct Selling Live, but direct selling industry. A lot of the companies are heavily invested in donating, as you mentioned, to political candidates. Mm-hmm. And I think people need to know about that. That's got to be transparent, right, because that affects their business. And they have to, sometimes, you know, people will say, well, you know, I'm doing well in my business, or I'm starting a business with this company, but I'm not really crazy about the company taking the money I'm helping generate for them, mm-hmm, and put it toward a cause or a party that I don't believe in. And I think people have to know about that.
That's a very good point, because when I did the Amway story, and I got some blowback from a lot of right-wing people, they were pretty upset with me, calling me a left-wing hack and all this sort of stuff. But one of the things that I asked was this: if you were with a direct selling company and they were ideologically at odds, if they were just diametrically opposed to what your thoughts are, not only politically but socially, culturally, would you remain with them?
Right.
Because my feeling is if you knew and they were at odds with you, chances are you would not be with them. Because if you're looking for a company that has the same values as you do, then it would seem to me their political values are very, very important because, as you pointed out, here you are doing well or on your way to doing well in direct selling as a distributor. Your company profits as they should, but then to find out that their profits are going against the things that you believe in, I think there's an integrity issue there. I think there, like you said, some transparency issues there, and we need to come to grips with these things. As you said, we tend to think it happens in other industries. No, it happens right here in direct selling all the time.
Absolutely, and I think the point you bring up too about integrity is very important for a lot of people. You know, that's a major core value for people.
Yeah.
And to suddenly find out that you've been, you know, working hard and slaving over this and building your business and you're doing well or on your way, like you're saying, doing well, and suddenly find out that this is all going against the things you believe in, that cuts right to the core. And I know, personally speaking, I could not be with a company that would go against my values like that.
Yeah,
And,
I don't think any distributor could. I don't care what side of the political fence you're on. I don't think any distributor, if you were conservative and you found out that the company owners were pouring money into the Democrats or some liberal progressive position, you would be so turned off, you would leave. And I think the same thing applies to Republicans. Of course, you're going to have those people that are doing well who are going to say, you know, I'm going to stick my head in the sand. I'm going to be like the ostrich and not say anything because I'm making a lot of money, which is absolutely fine. I have absolutely no problem with that. But for the majority of people, there's a problem. Because when you look at, for instance, Betsy DeVos, one of the, she's married to one of the DeVosses, so she's one of the heirs of this multi-billion-dollar company. Her big thing has been to get rid of public schools. Well, how many distributors need public schooling because they cannot pay for private schools or cannot do a voucher program because of the additional funds that are going to be needed? To me, that goes against what so many people who are trying to make an extra $200 to $300 to $400 a month, that goes against what they're trying to do. And I think there's a problem there because they haven't come clean about it.
Absolutely. And again, it's the top 1%, in this case, at least with the DeVosses, because they're very, very well off, as we know, versus the people who are helping them stay there and help get them there, which is the middle class.
Yeah.
And, the middle class is the one that always has the taxes. Everything is thrown on our backs.
Well,
and it's not fair.
I think the main thing for us, as it relates to this discussion, is getting people here in direct selling, particularly distributors, to realize that through this project, Direct Selling Live Politics, and your involvement at Lisa Wilbur's and Kelly Foote and Ruth Webster and the other four that will eventually come on, this allows us to not only engage in the political conversation amongst ourselves, but it also begins to turn politicians towards our direction. So they begin to say, wait a minute, there's a huge voting segment over there that we have never thought of. We need to go talk to them. And part of this is getting politicians to realize they need to come and talk to us because our votes count just like everyone else's, at least our votes count as long as they can. And, with this Supreme Court decision in 2010 on January 21st, that certainly changed everything. But this is all about getting us to come together as a community, realizing that there's going to be a lot of different voices, but our voice needs to be heard regardless of how many different voices that they are in this mix.
And Kiefer, I agree with you. And I also think what's going to happen as a result of this, I hope, is, we're getting engaged in the political process. But I think people who are looking at the direct selling industry are going to start to look at what the companies they're looking at, what their political involvement is before they actually sign up, once they are aware that goes on. I think that's going to be a major factor coming down the road that people are going to evaluate before they sign up with a company.
Well, it could certainly have some tremendous impact on companies right now, what we're talking about. It could have some very serious negative ramifications in terms of cash flow and distributors. But that's that's business, and that's what people do. These are one of the issues that we use to determine whether we're going to buy a product, whether we're going to go to this country, whether or not we're going to marry that particular individual. Do they have the same political views as I do? All of these things come into play, so it's just as important here in direct selling. Gene, I want to say thank you very, very much for coming on to On Air today. I think it's going to be a very exciting 11 months. I really do. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be engaging. And all I can say to you is if someone says something negative from a comment, remember, you just want them to engage.
Oh, yeah, I have no problem. Hey, I used to do stand-up comedy. I know what negative comments are all about, So I'm used to that. But I think it's an exciting thing that DirectSellingLive is doing because it's needed. It's needed. And people really, like I said earlier, have to be involved in the political process. And this is a great way to get our group involved in all of that. So thank you for inviting me to be on the show. I really appreciate it, Keeper.
Thanks a lot. We'll be having you on a few more times during this whole political season. So looking forward to it, to see what you write, and looking forward to the videos that you start to submit as well. Gene Braunstein, thanks again. We'll be back.
When my mother used to sell Princess House.
Joined them way that night.
Norma siempre vendía cosas de Avon.
Oh, it must have been around 1935.
But those knives were amazing.
The one lady's name was Mary Kay, and I said, cosmetics will never sell on party plan.
Was a single mom and created these hair care products for black women and became the first self-made millionaire in the United States. I just think that's extraordinary.
That's our show for today. Thanks for joining us. Later on in the week and in the weeks to come, we will have the other political bloggers from DirectSellingLive Politics 2012, including Avon top distributor Lisa Wilbur, who will be blogging for the Libertarians, Soul Purpose Lifestyle Company distributor Ruth Webster, who will be blogging for the Independents, and Kelly Foote, a top consultant in direct selling, will be representing the Tea Party. If you are interested in being a blogger, we are looking for a few more. In the mix, we would like to have a mainstream Republican, a mainstream Democrat. We would love to have an Occupy blogger. If you're someone who's all involved in the Occupy movement throughout the country and throughout the world, we would love to have you blog for Direct Selling Live Politics. And we're looking for a youth or young adult blogger. If you're interested, contact Direct Selling Live Politics at DirectSellingLive.com, or you can reach us at OnAIR at Direct Selling Live, and we will also get back to you for Direct Selling Live Politics. Have a great day and talk to you tomorrow.